Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Adelia, that's my buddy Shug. This is the Rewatchers Council MCU edition, and we are finally back to talk WandaVision after a very long break because of the World Cup. Thank you to everyone who tuned into our World Cup streams over on our sister channel, Good Friends, Better Rivals. But we're going to talk about WandaVision episodes 5, 6, and 7 today. Shug, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. It has been a whirlwind of doing all of the World Cup stuff, and we are back now. So it's nice to be back, but it's going to be we got a lot to catch up on, especially with the Marvel, especially with all these announcements. So let's get into it.
Yeah. Um, uh, we did learn at San Diego Comic-Con yesterday that there is a release date for Vision Quest, which is like the third series in this trilogy of series that started with WandaVision, continued with Agatha all along, and now it's going to end up concluding with Vision Quest. At least I think it's concluding with Vision Quest. I don't know what's coming after Vision Quest yet, obviously. So that's coming out in October, though. So that'll be good. We will cover that on the show eventually, but I'm sure we'll be covering it on the channel before all of that. All right, so episode 5 was titled On a Very Special Episode. And this immediately was homage to the 80s. We had the very family ties or growing pains-esque intro to the episode. And this is the episode where the twins stop being babies and by the end of the episode are 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
And we also learn a little bit more about what's going on outside of the Hex now that Monica is out of the Hex and being tended to by Sword. And Vision seems to start thinking that not everything is as it seems. Towards the beginning of this episode and by the end of this episode, he seems pretty convinced that something's wrong. So, Shug, what are your initial thoughts on this episode?
I mean, it starts off obviously, like you said, the growing pains. Is it growing pains? Yeah.
Family ties or growing pains. I can't remember which one.
Yeah, one of those ones.
One of the two.
It's very much an homage to those TV shows. And then you kind of start to see the little cracks of what's going on and how like kind of Vision is figuring out that something's wrong. And how they you know, he notices Agatha comes in and says something, and there's like a weird reaction. He's like, "Did you see that?" And Wanda's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So he starts to kind of become self-aware of it.
Yeah.
And he realizes something's not right, but he's not sure what it is. Then he goes to work, and they get the Sword email, and then he uses his powers on I forgot the guy's name, but he uses on
Norm.
Norm. And Norm starts telling him like, "Hey, get her out of my head. I can't think for myself. Help us." And Vision starts to realize, okay, something's not right. And he starts questioning everything. You can tell, and I love the acting by Paul Bettany and how he's reacting to stuff and how he's portraying a robot but with very human like emotions. And he starts to question. Like you said, you brought up Monica. She gets out of the Hex. She starts to debrief Sword on what happened, what she was feeling, how she was feeling being in the Hex, how she was feeling with how Wanda was like in control. We both agreed that I forgot his name, but the director of Sword is a dick, and we don't like him.
Hayward's a total dick.
Yeah.
Darcy even agrees with us. She says so to Jimmy in the episode.
Yeah, because he says I don't speak disparagingly about my
coworkers.
chain of command. Yeah, and she's like, "I'll say it for you," and so she says it. But
she doesn't quite say it though. They cut away right after she starts saying it. But that's what she said.
You know what you're saying. And it starts to show little cracks into Wanda and how she wants things. And like once we get to like multiverse of madness, we kind of see that also. Like how she how she's feeling, like her emotions are tied to her powers, and how sometimes she can't control them. There's, and it also displays both sides. You get Hayward talking about how Wanda took over all of the town, and how that's considered terror, because as Jimmy's explaining who she is, Hayward's like, well, she was radicalized, or I think Jimmy, I forgot who says it, but then he was like, well, she was a terrorist, and he's like, well, no, she proved herself to the Avengers and joined the Avengers. He's like, yeah, but, and it's kind of, it was a stupid comment, but I kind of like stuck with me, where he's like, well, what's her code name? Did she have an alias? No, okay. So then
Yeah.
she's just a bad person, and like that is kind of funny, because now that you think about it, like we know her as a Scarlet Witch, but she was
We
never
never
actually.
hear her called the Scarlet Witch until
Yeah,
the series.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so it was kind of funny, um, and kind of like a nod to us as a fans,
Fan
but
base, yeah.
um, I think that we get a lot of, like I said, it starts to slowly break down her what she's why she what's her purpose of doing this, um
Yeah.
and you start to reveal that, because at first you're just kind of thinking like, okay, she's just there, like there's something going on, but you're not sure. But
Mm-hmm.
then you realize that you know that there's something major going on, so and she's a part of it. But like we both said, like Hayward's kind of a dick. He shows a video like, hey, she came in and stole Vision's body, but then like the video's all distorted, cuts out at periodic of times. So obviously we already know, like, okay, something's shady with all of this. And you feel bad for Wanda, because we all know what she's going through, and like we'll talk about in later episodes how she actually just kind of admits um to the whole situation. But like,
Yeah.
she's going through something, and there's a comment in later episodes that I bring up. I don't want to bring up now because it's kind of spoils stuff, but you know you kind of like starting to put the pieces together as the audience. And I
Yeah.
like the way they framed everything, because it wasn't so obvious in the first couple of episodes, and it wasn't like, oh, okay, we know where we're going with this. Like you were kind of like, wait a minute, like where are we going with this? Like this is a
Remember how
very.
all the Mephisto rumors were out
Yes,
there and everybody
yes,
was convinced Mephisto was coming into this and the reason for all of this and everything? Um, yeah. This is where the cracks start to show and you start to find out what's really happening. Um, the this episode is about grief in the form of a little dog named Sparky, who the twins, who by the time they find Sparky have aged themselves up to age 5, and then when they get Sparky and Wanda and Vision try to tell them they're not old enough to take care of a dog until they're 10, then age themselves up to 10. And so they have this dog who they adore, these boys. They've had the dog for less than a day, but they adore the dog. And then the dog gets out when they fly in another drone to try to communicate with Wanda. And Hayward doesn't tell Monica, but he has armed the drone and is telling other sword people there to take the shot. That's when we find out Hayward armed the drone. But when Wanda went out the house to confront the drone, that's when Sparky got out. And so then they're looking for Sparky the dog, and they find Sparky the dog because Agnes, and this was my first clue that something really weird was up with Agnes. Because Agnes, first off, earlier in this episode, the boys aged from babies to 5-year-olds right in front of her and didn't seem phased.
not at
And
all.
then, not at all. And then she finds Sparky the dog having eaten bushes from her leaves from her azalea bushes, and she was going to bring this dead dog over to let them know that she found their dog. But excuse me,
Okay.
I have a cold. Um, so they're gonna. She found the dog. The dog is dead, and the boys want Wanda to fix that. And
Yeah.
they say, "But you can bring back the dead, mommy." And you hear Agnes go, "You can do that?" And just this voice that's unlike any voice that tone of voice that Catherine Hahn had used so far for Agnes, which was a good foreshadowing way down the future for when they did Agatha All Along and Agatha having lost her own son. But Wanda's trying to convince the boys not to age up to escape the grief. They have to sit with the grief, and it's like she's literally rewriting reality to avoid dealing with her own grief.
Yeah.
And um, I think that I didn't really understand the rewriting reality part of it. I mean, I figured that's what it was because I know Wanda's powers from the comics, but I didn't know quite how they were going to get that point across to like people who don't know Wanda from the comics until they go back outside the hex, as Darcy starts calling it in this episode. Before that, it was just known as the Maximoff anomaly, and Monica figures out that the clothes that she went into the anomaly wearing, which was a Kevlar vest, were just rewritten into the crazy 70s clothes she was wearing when Wanda kicked her out. And she does that by taking Jimmy's
Sure. Yeah.
gun and shooting him.
Yeah.
Um, and the pants are still 87% Kevlar. And so that's the first clue that it's all rewritten reality. Because Monica says before that, before she figures this part out, that they're trying to find out if anybody's identified who the kids are yet. Because they've, in the last episodes, they've been trying to identify all of the residents that are being held hostage by Wanda. And Monica's like, "Oh no, the kids are hers. The kids are Wanda's. It's real in there. It's just like everything she does in there is real, but it's the townspeople she has under mind control, basically."
Yeah.
And when they send the drone in to try to talk to her, Monica's trying to talk to her. Hayward has them take the shot. Uh, Next thing you know,
Dumbass.
Wanda's outside of the hex, confronting Hayward and the rest of the sword people there. And this is after Monica, Jimmy, and Darcy had basically told him what a stupid mistake taking that shot at Wanda was, and he wanted them escorted off the base, which they did not get escorted off the base.
We'll
um,
say, kind of going back when you
yeah,
bring that up and like her power, the little nod to the audience where they're talking about Wanda and how what they're like, she's never shown this kind of power, and then Monica's like, well, she could have took out Thanos had he not blitzed her, which is a very much comic book nerd um discourse amongst
yeah,
comic book nerds.
yeah,
Like that's how they talk when they talk about things. Like they talk about like bloodlust or blitzing. When they put two fictional 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 I can't say talk right now, but two
fictitious,
characters again, not fictitious, fictional characters against
fictional,
each other. They say, oh, if one's bloodlust or if one blitzes one, that's how they kind of talk. So it was funny because they
yeah,
they mentioned that, but then also
yeah,
too they bring up Captain Marvel, and you get this look from Monica, like a real weird like kind of look, and
yeah.
so that was pretty. Again, I like the little nods to the comic
To the
book fans.
comics,
Yeah, well, not to the comics, to the comic book fans, because it kind of just says, "Hey, we we um we read what you talk about," because that's a
yeah,
very niche. That's a very niche thing
yeah,
to talk about when it comes to stuff like that. Like that would be almost like talking about with you like something about soccer and it's very niche. Um I don't know, I can't think of anything niche that
An
you would, but it would,
Olympico.
sure.
An
I wouldn't know what
Olympico
the
is
hell
when
that
you
is.
score directly from a corner kick.
Okay.
The
So
guy taking
it,
the corner scores the goal.
okay, well, hasn't Beckham done that? Okay, anyway, that's a different show.
Different
But
show.
yes, yes, that is something you would know, and it's very niche. And bringing that up in a conversation that people know that's very niche is kind of funny. Again, I just think
Yeah,
that's Marvel saying, "Hey, we know what you talk about.
yeah,
We know what you're talking about." So
yeah.
it's very
And
interesting to see.
you bring up that scene where Monica and Captain Marvel comes up, and then after that, Monica says something like, I or right before that, Monica had said something about how like but she knows an aerospace engineer who would who could help her out, and
Which was very annoying. We were
very
talking about
annoying,
that last night.
very very annoying because it's no one. But everybody was like, "Ooh, who's this gonna be? Like, who's gonna be this special person that's gonna come help?" No one. It was no one. It was just someone who
A
works at
waste.
Sword that
It
Monica
was so
knows.
yeah, it
Like
was a waste.
it could have been Carol, it could have been lots of people. It could have been just anyone really that had any sort of like tech or anything, or but it was just sword people. And like we don't know any other sword people at that point besides Monica and Hayward, and I guess Darcy works for Sword. I don't know, because there was that one line.
And I even
There
asked
was
you
that
that.
one. Yeah, there was that one line from Darcy. Hayward says, do you work for me?" And Darcy was like, "I don't know." So I don't even think we've ever figured out who Darcy works for here. Um, but Wanda comes out of the hex after Hayward takes the shot at her, and says she looks exactly like the Scarlet Witch, her costume as it was in the MCU at that point and everything, rather than her mom's sitcom self from the 80s, which is what she's looked like this whole episode so far.
Yeah.
And Monica tries to talk to her and tries to, tell her she's on Wanda's side. And Wanda says the line, "I have what I want and no one will ever take it from me again," which clearly is grief over Vision and the family they could have had together, and however that would have worked, and all of this. So then she goes back into the hex and she
Well,
like powers up the hex.
important thing is she turns all the soldiers on to Hayward.
Oh yeah,
That let you. That let that let.
the whole crew there is pointing their
Yeah.
guns at Wanda, and then just one like flick of her wrist, and they're all pointing their guns at Hayward. And he's like freaking out.
And that's when you knew he had done some scummy stuff
Yeah,
because it was like, why would she go after him?
yeah. I that's a good point because at that point we'd seen the footage of Wanda at the sword facility that Hayward showed everybody in that briefing, but we didn't know the backstory behind that yet. Um, and we see that in, I believe, episode 8, which we'll cover in our next episode. But Hayward, ooh, he's not a good guy.
He's
And that was the first real clue that he was not a good guy. Back inside, Vision finishes burying the dog, and he says it's not usual that you get a dog and bury it on the same day, which is very true. It's very unusual.
that is
to do
very
that.
true.
Yeah.
That is very true.
And he starts trying to talk to her about what's going on, and Wanda rolls the credits, and Vision ain't having it, and they get
Yeah.
into a fight.
And he says, and I love the dialogue that he kind of goes with, where he's like, you can't control, you can't
"You
control
can't
me
control me
the way,
like you control them."
yeah, and you can see that bugs her the way when he says that,
Yeah, and she just
um,
goes, "Can't I?" and walks
yeah,
away and rolls the credits, and that's when he follows after her.
yeah, and
And
they start fighting, and they both power up, which is actually kind of cool.
yeah, they're both floating in the living room, and Vision tells her that he doesn't remember his life before Westview. He doesn't know what there is outside of Westview. He can't remember his real life and he is scared. And she says, "You have me, you have your sons. Isn't that enough?" And he's like, "You're doing this to this whole town and you're rewriting everything every time we go to bed, and it's a different house every time they wake up." And then she's like, "I don't know how any of this is happening." And the doorbell rings and she immediately goes, "I didn't do that." And you can tell Vision doesn't believe her.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the door, at first, all you see is Wanda's shocked face and the back of a hair that looks a lot like Aaron Taylor Johnson's hair when he was Pietro Maximoff. And I thought
The
that shot
gray.
was framed perfectly. That they styled the hair perfectly and everything for that shot because it makes everybody think, "Oh, here's Aaron Taylor Johnson." And then the camera spins around and it's Evan Peters.
Which was great because that
It
is
was
a
a great,
crossover. It's a
yeah,
crossover, something we were having a conversation about last night with the Fox
the
universe and the
X-Men,
Marvel
yeah.
universe. So like this then puts more of a emphasis on
The
the Fox
only problem
universe.
the only problem I have with this is that they didn't keep it people guessing to the end of the series, because we find out in episode 8 or 9 that he's not Peter Maximoff from the Fox universe. He's just this guy named Ralph Boner who's a actor, and Agatha has turned him into Pietro because of a magicked necklace that he's wearing all the time, or beads or whatever it is around his neck. And meanwhile, all the sword people are like trying to like deal with what just happened with Wanda, and Darcy goes to grab something and she notices what's going on the broadcast feed, which is what's happening when Wanda opens the door. And it's just a great line. Did she just recast Pietro? Because that's something that happens on sitcoms, especially back then. If you had an actor or an actress or somebody that got a different job or they didn't want on the show anymore or whatever. Aunt
Yeah.
Viv on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is a famous one. You just recast them. Keep the character, recast. Now, is this stunt casting of Evan Peters? Absolutely. I think it was meant to be a multiversal tease, for sure. But I think it was always just meant to be a wink, because in the same season that they have this introduced, they immediately go, "No, he's not Peter." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. I think you're 100% agree. I think it was a tease, but then also kind of a I don't know what you would call it, but yeah, 100% agree with you on that part.
That's episode 5, basically.
Yeah, it
So,
leaves us on a little bit of a cliffhanger, and
yeah,
we're all asking questions like, what the hell just happened?
yeah. So, episode 6 is the all-new Halloween Spooktacular, which is referencing stuff from the late 90s, early 2000s, with Malcolm in the Middle, the big inspiration for the intro. No laugh track in this one, because when Pietro shows up at the end of uh, episode 5, there's the laugh track. There's no laugh track in the Spooktacular episode. And there's fourth wall breaking from the kids, and it's Halloween. And so Uncle Pete, as he now is, Pietro, living with Wanda and Vision, playing like a fun-loving bad influence to Billy and Tommy, teaching them pranks. They shotgun sodas at one point. They're playing video games. And then at one point in time, they're all screaming about whether Pietro's a vampire, because Tommy has convinced Billy that he's scared of their uncle because he thinks their uncle might be a vampire. And Wanda comes down the stairs in her Halloween costume, which looks like the comics Scarlet Witch costume, and says, "Somebody better be bleeding, broken, or on fire," which I thought was such a like sitcom mom thing to say.
Yes, Yes.
Um, Vision comes down dressed in the
His
comic
original
accurate
costume.
Vision
Yeah.
costume. I thought this was a great way to work in the comic accurate costumes because they do tend to make the costumes in the MCU a little more real world realistic than the stuff that's, just drawn in the comics. Not that there's anything wrong with the stuff drawn in the comics, just that I don't think anybody would see, you know, Wanda or Vision show up looking like they have those outfits on in this episode and take them seriously. Is like, these people are here to save my life. You know what I mean? So I think that's why they go for the more real world realism to the outfits in the MCU. But Vision is not having this stuff with Wanda. He realizes something's wrong. Pietro has shown up out of nowhere. Um, so he decides to tell Wanda that he is going to be part of the neighborhood watch that night instead of helping her take the kids trick or treating. And this is when Pietro steps up and is like, I've got an XY chromosome too. I can be the kid's father figure for the night. And Vision goes exploring the town because he's not actually on neighborhood watch duty. While Wanda and Pietro take the kids trick or treating into the town square scare, I think is what it ends up being called. Vision sees some really weird stuff towards the end of town, where it's
Yeah.
just that one lady who's just like doing the thing with her hands.
Yeah, I think she's putting like a clothesline or something like that.
Yeah. And then a tear just starts coming down because like she's doing it and she can't stop doing it because that's what Wanda has her doing. Then the woman that's just standing there and the kids that are just standing there and nothing Vision says gets through to them or anything. And then he goes away from being costumed Vision to actual Vision, and he sees the car just idling at this intersection of roads, and it's Agnes, dressed as a witch. Boy, who would have thought?
Which is funny.
It's very funny. And he tries to talk to her, and she's just as out of it as everybody else is. And he, does his powers to her temple, and she lets him know that she thinks she's dead because he's dead. And she starts it off by saying, "You're Vision, you're an Avenger." And he's like, "What's an Avenger?" He has no clue.
Yeah.
He has no clue about his life outside of what Wanda has created here. And so Wanda's got the kids. They're running around doing trick-or-treating. They go cause a bunch of havoc with Pietro, stealing everyone's candy with his super speed and everything. And then Tommy discovers he has Pietro's super speed. And then
Yes.
later in the episode, Billy's powers will also emerge, but a little bit differently. So I love that the kids are dressed in, like, they dressed Tommy like Pietro, like matching costumes with Pietro. And then Billy is dressed like Wiccan is in the comics, just for a little
Yes.
kid. Yeah. And so Wanda keeps trying to like test this Pietro because it's not the Pietro's she remembers,
Yeah.
And he's telling her stuff like, "I just heard you calling to me." He's like, "I got shot, and then I heard you calling to me, and now I'm here." So, like, I was wondering when I was watching that with you last night if that means that like it's Pietro's personality through the magic, even though he doesn't have all his memories exactly right, and it's being channeled through Ralph Boner because it's obviously not the real Pietro. And meanwhile, Monica and Jimmy and Darcy are trying to find out what Hayward is covering up, basically. Darcy
Yeah.
hacks into his systems. He notices he's tracking Vision because of the decaying vibranium. And they're very confused about that. Wouldn't he want to keep tracking Wanda? But it's. And then the aerospace engineer shows up. So Monica and Jimmy leave to go talk to them. And Darcy says she's going to stay because something's, Hayward's covering something up. She can tell there's more. So she's going to stay and figure it out. And then Vision starts coming towards the barricade. The barrier, I guess. It's not really a barricade. And he starts trying to go through the barrier. And he gets through. He's on the other side. Except he's now disintegrating because he's made of the magic that is keeping the hex together. And because Wanda can rewrite reality, she's just written the vibranium that Hayward is tracking with the tracker that they found. So Darcy goes running out there and is like, can't you tell that he's dying? Like, help him. And Vision's like, help the people. The people need help. And this is when Billy starts realizing something's wrong because he can hear his dad in his head. And they run over to Wanda, who's just had this whole conversation with Pietro about how she doesn't know how she's doing it. She just felt so alone.
Yeah.
And then Billy lets her know what he's hearing about Dad, about Vision. And she starts sending the hex out further when she realizes he's outside of the hex.
Yeah. And
After
before
she
that,
blasts Pietro.
well, yeah, but before that, Pietro and her have some great moments.
Yeah.
Where where Billy says "kick ass," and then he's like, and then she like she doesn't look at the camera, but she goes "kick ass." Obviously he was in Kick Ass, where he started with the original Pietro of
Yeah,
Aaron.
there's that great meme when you're like when Quicksilver is best friends with Quicksilver and one of them's kick ass.
Yeah, so it was pretty funny. There the one where we both laughed was the accent. She's like, "Where's your accent?" He's like, "Well, where's yours?" Which was a huge issue with Scarlet Witch.
Some people.
And
Some people
they
had a big
had
issue about the
and
accent.
brought it up. So it was kind of hilarious because she even reacts to it. She's like, again, those little nods that we got, which were pretty funny.
Yeah. Those were great. And then Wanda pushes out the barrier, and it's Darcy's handcuffed to the truck at that point. So Darcy gets sucked in to the hex. And I wonder, because Darcy had pointed out that Hayward had Monica's blood work and that her cells are just full of energy. And we see the result of those cells later in episode 7. But few things for this one. The fourth wall breaks, and the format shift from like your traditional sitcom that had always been on TV, evolving obviously through the decades, but like your traditional sitcom into these like new formats in these next two episodes, episode 6 and 7, with the fourth wall breaks from this one from Malcolm in the Middle, and then the mockumentary format that episode 7 is in. I viewed those as like a storytelling device to sort of mirror the kids becoming somewhat more aware that this isn't quite right, their whole little family situation.
But what I like too? I want to bring this up because you brought up the different styles. Look, this could have easily been Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany just like phone it in and be like whatever about it. but like they like they really like bought into it. Like the opening of that one, which is like kind of Malcolm Middle, where they catch Elizabeth Olsen's character, brushing her teeth, and just
In
I really,
curlers and yeah,
yeah, like I just really like the fact that they made it made it feel it made it feel authentic, and also made it feel like like
sitcom.
an actual kids sitcom, and they could have easily phoned it in and things like that. There's a
Yeah.
part in the next episode that we'll talk about, that Vision, like he like it's just hilarious. Like I thought it was really funny what he was doing, and then like he like I won't talk about it, but I think that was just I really like that. I really like that. Like they really bought into it and the direction they went into it to explain the story. And we talked about this the other day when we were on the LBHT show about Marvel. Like it was something different, and it made it like it gave it a fresh breath of fresh air, because a lot of people didn't know what the show was going to be. A lot of people didn't know, when we heard about it, WandaVision, we're like, what is this going to be? And how it's when you first start watching it, you're like, what is this?
Do you
and then
remember
you
when they
just,
first announced the name WandaVision and everybody was like, you couldn't come up with a better name? But that's a perfect name for what this show ended up being.
yeah,
But nobody knew what the show
100%.
was. It was just WandaVision coming to Disney Plus, and everybody was like, it's just their names pushed together. Like,
Yeah,
but it's perfect for this.
yeah, and the fact that, um, um, yeah, totally agree with you there.
I'm sorry.
Again,
Did I make you
no,
lose
no,
your
no,
train of thought?
yeah, for a second, it's okay, it's not your fault.
Sorry.
No, no, you're fine. But yeah, I love the name, but again, I just love how they took it seriously, and um they really put their um that you really believed them being a couple. Like, to be honest
Yeah.
with you, like you really believe that they were a couple. You believe that they
This
were
is the
going through
most we
stuff.
ever saw of them as a couple. Because we had Infinity War, sure. But before that, we only had little hints in like Age of Ultron or Civil War that like there was something between them. Um, so I think it's I'm really glad that they made this show simply because we got to see Wanda and Vision together, and I didn't know, especially after Infinity War went the way that it went with Vision, if we were ever going to get that. And so this show was great for that. And then I still don't know if we're ever going to get more of Wanda and Vision together. I'm hoping by the end of Vision Quest we have some answers to that. But yeah. So that's episode 6. Episode 7 was titled Breaking the Fourth Wall, which of course started in episode 6. But this one takes the late 2000s sitcom format of The Office or Modern Family, these mockumentaries with talking head interviews, sitting down, being the characters in the show being interviewed for the show. And there's some really funny interviews in this one. Um, Wanda wakes up. She seems like hungover after the use of her powers. She's in bed. She doesn't want to get out of bed. She's still in her costume from the night before. And she has this like spiraling emotional state, which is rewriting the house around them. Which is when you start to realize that the house is all magic. It's
Yeah,
not actually there. So there's all kinds of reality glitching going on. Objects flicker between different decades. There's like a milk carton that goes from modern to back to the like old fashioned like glass bottle style that you used to get back in the like 50s and 60s. Um, the boys' video games aren't going right because the TV keeps flickering between different things. Stuff like that. Wanda is she wants to just have a day to herself. And then here comes Agnes to take the kids. So Wanda can get some just time for herself. And right after that, if you notice, the glitching really intensifies in the house. That's when Wanda, like everything she looks at is flickering between what it looked like in throughout different decades of the show so far. Outside the hex, Darcy managed to, before the hex got her, get through Hayward's last firewall, probably is the word for it. And Sword's Project Cataract wasn't about decommissioning Vision. Hayward was trying to reboot him as a weapon, and only
Of course.
succeeded once Wanda unknowingly powered him back up. And so this is when I was really like, oh, Hayward, you son of a bitch. Because he gave that whole speech when he showed the footage about Wanda stealing Vision's body, about how Vision's living will and his wishes and everything were not to be brought back if something happened to him. And
Where did you get a living will for Vision though? That doesn't even make any
I
sense.
think that as an Avenger, he probably had one.
I think they just made it up. Like not that
He
he
might
wouldn't
have
have
made
one.
that up. He might
I
have
think
made
he
that
just
up,
made it up.
but he might have made that up for sure. Hayward, you cannot trust Hayward. But I would also think that, like, Tony, back in the days when the team was functioning on all cylinders, would have been like, okay, any of us could die at any moment, so here's what we're going to do. Wills, next of kin notifications, all the information that you possibly have that we need to, who to call if something happens to you, all that information. I'm sure they had that for everybody. Because, or Fury would have been like, we need to get this information in case something happens, something like that. Because it just makes sense to me. But I'm one of those people who had a will and everything by the time I was 27, so who knows. So Monica and Jimmy meet up with the aerospace engineer, who's nobody. We talked about that already. The
Which was
aerospace
a
engineer is just
waste.
nobody. Complete waste. They built it up for 2 episodes, and then it was nobody. And then Monica tries to drive this truck that's supposed to go through like easy peasy, and can't get it through, and decides to run through the barrier instead. After the barrier spits the truck back out, and it's half minivan, half this super scientific vehicle that she just had. And as she's going back through the barrier, it ignites her powers. And so Monica now has all these new abilities from repeatedly passing through the barrier. The vision that they show of what she's looking at when she gets through to the other side would freak me out if I just woke up one day and I could see the energy everywhere. Like, that's totally weird. But it was really cool to see what Monica could see, and then it just sort of like she was able to settle back into herself and then go take off running for Wanda. Wanda is outside after first Monica goes into Wanda's house to try to talk to Wanda, and Wanda's not having it, and then she tries to like lift her up and then bring her back down to the ground, but when she comes back down to the ground, energy from Monica. And then she's trying to talk to Wanda and tells her she's not going anywhere. And Agnes comes over and is like, I think you need to leave. I think you've done enough here. And takes Wanda with her back to her house. Wanda's in the house. She notices weird things like bugs
on the
on
window.
the window, and it's very quiet, and she says, "Where are the twins?" And Agnes says, "Oh, they're probably just playing in the basement," while she's making Wanda some tea.
That is never a good thing. When someone tells you my kids are playing in the basement, you're like, why are they in the basement?
So Wanda goes down to the basement and she's calling out for Billy and Tommy, and nobody's answering her. And then she sees this like passageway that's got like all these like trees grown up around it and stuff. And then Agnes comes downstairs and says, What, you thought you were the only magical girl in town? And introduces herself as Agatha Harkness. Now, I realized last night when we watched this that we forgot to watch one thing. We forgot to watch the mid-credits scene on this episode. Because I forgot there was a mid-credits scene on this episode. Monica goes snooping around Agatha's house, is confronted by Pietro, and once again raises the question of whether he's actually Pietro or under Agatha's control. So that's the mid-credits scene on this episode. But after we get the notification that Agatha Harkness, dear, it's wonderful to finally meet you. We get the montage of all of the things Agatha has been doing to the wonderful "It Was Agatha All Along" song that was just stuck in
Great song.
everybody's head, for a long time, and was the precursor to the wonderful Down the Witch's Road in Agatha All Along, which I love as well. But she's been manipulating lots of events, and the montage, of course, ends with her holding Sparky and her going, "And I killed Sparky too," and laughing maniacally, which Catherine Hahn is very good at.
It was actually pretty hilarious. The way she said
Yeah.
it. She's like, "And I killed Sparky too." And you're like, "What?"
Yeah.
You're like, "You witch."
So, there were a few things about this episode that I want to bring up. For you, was the Agatha reveal a satisfying twist, or was it a bit expected? Because I know a lot of fan theories were out there that, oh, Agnes, she's got to be Agatha Harkness. So, were you expecting her to be Agatha Harkness, or were you, excited about the reveal at the end of this episode when this first aired?
I mean, that's a deep cut. I think that hindsight, you look at it and you go, "Oh yeah, that was obvious." But when you're not paying attention, you're not like super like into it.
Yeah.
You're probably not gonna pick up on it. So
This is still in the height of all the Mephisto theories, especially after we see the Darkhold in Agatha's basement.
Even that, when she introduces you, you're assuming, okay, it's definitely Mephisto.
Yeah. I forgot to mention, we see the Darkhold, the book, in Agatha's basement.
Yeah.
I remember.
It's a lot.
I didn't know much at the time about Agatha Harkness, the comic book character. So I was like, I'd heard the fan theories that, oh, she's probably Agatha Harkness, but I was excited about it because I wanted to learn more about Agatha. And now Agatha's one of my favorite characters in the MCU. I love Agatha. She's great. I cannot wait to see what goes on with Agatha from here, which we'll cover when we get to Agatha All Along. But I think that a lot of people set themselves up, especially with as many people as bought so heavily into the Mephisto thing, to be disappointed by that.
I wasn't disappointed. I liked it.
Yeah, I think that it's great that it was just, and like, I've always felt like "It Was Agatha All Along" song. Sure, it was Agatha for certain things, for sure, but it wasn't Agatha all along. Like, Wanda did most of that stuff in the hex. Like, that was all Wanda, and Agatha just wanted her power, which we'll get to in the final 2 episodes. But I also thought the mockumentary framing gave us the most real version of Wanda that we'd seen all season, with the direct address to camera, and her talking about her emotional state and just like blatantly saying like, "Yeah, I expanded the boundaries of the town I'm holding hostage." Basically, I don't remember exactly what she said. She didn't say that, but all of that. What do you think about that?
I liked the fact that, like I said, like you said, we saw like a real version of it. Also, too, when you see these kind of um movies or like shows, like it does give you like almost like a perspective of they're really showing their feelings, which I like.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see. I like the fact that they chrono, basically put TV shows in chronological order and
Yeah.
decades to cut and then get to this point that we're something we're familiar with. But it was nice to go back and see like the I Love Lucy's and all that stuff,
Yeah.
kind of style of movies or sorry shows. So that was cool.
Yeah,
Um,
this also was like an evolution of television kind of throughout this whole thing. You
even to
saw it
the point
from
where
black and white all the way
yeah,
to the end.
yeah, and even to the point where we're at now in TV, like this is what TV is now is streaming, which is where this
Yeah.
was at. That was actually kind of cool if you think of it that way of how they presented it.
Mhm.
Um, but I did like you said, we got the real of Wanda and how she what she was going through. So that
Yeah.
that was interesting to see.
Yeah. We also saw Sword's true motives there with Hayward and all of that being revealed in this episode. And so that the one thing that I noticed as well was the commercials, which we haven't talked about the commercials in these 3 episodes yet. So we'll do that really quick before we leave. Um, so for let me find my notes on these. The commercials. We had the Lagos paper towels one in episode 5.
What was Lagos?
We had
Lagos was
Lagos was the town in Nigeria where civil war starts. Remember where
oh yes, okay, okay.
Crossbones and all that was?
Remember
Yeah.
we were speculating like how these all tie in.
Yeah, none of these tie in directly to anything like what's going on in WandaVision, but they all tie into Wanda. So that one's Lagos. Um, and that's about grief being tied to a specific event, which was Lagos in that case of that commercial. Then we had the completely out of nowhere, very disturbing Yo Magic Yogurt claymation ad, where a boy is stranded on a desert island. He's offered yogurt by a surfer shark, can't get the lid open, and slowly starves to a skeleton.
Weird.
Very disturbing to watch. And it's considered Yo Magic, the snack for survivors, is the name of the tagline. I think that that's a foreshadowing commercial for how Wanda survived the Hydra experiments. Her magic came out. We see that
Oh,
in
okay.
episode 8. Yeah, I think it's foreshadowing. And then episode 7, based on the 2000s pharmaceutical ads that I know very well, we have the Nexus antidepressant. Which is a woman sitting alone on a park bench in an undersaturated world where storm clouds are gathering, asking if she feels depressed, and then saying she feels like the world goes on without her. And the tagline on this one is Nexus, because the world doesn't revolve around you. Or does it? This ties to the thought of her being the concept in Marvel lore of a Nexus being, which Wanda would be, I guess. Kind of. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it all. I was saying this last night too. The thought of the because we get into and I think you just mentioned that. I'm sorry, but the anchor being like how in Deadpool.
Yeah.
Um.
Anchor being like when the anchor being dies, the universe starts to die. But I think that the Nexus being is a little different. I think the Nexus being is there's only one of you in the entire multiverse. And you would be you in every version of
Well, we know that's not true because
Okay, hold on. That's not right. I just looked it up. A nexus being is a rare, hyper-powerful entity capable of manipulating probability, altering the flow of time, and changing reality. Because their actions can affect the fate of timelines, they act as living anchors for their respective universes. So that's basically the same thing as an anchor being. Basically.
yeah.
Yeah. So so those were the 3 commercials, and like I think it like points forward to the multiverse more than back at like past trauma like some of the other ones have done. And I think them choosing to do that one as an antidepressant just like explicitly like frames it as Wanda's medicating her grief. by choosing this fake reality over the truth that Vision is, gone. So those are the commercials there. And then I think that's about it. Any final thoughts, Shug?
Sorry, just getting a work email. No, just can't wait to explore the next couple episodes, and we'll definitely be excited. Again, I think we all think, like we all said, this show really hit a spot that we did not expect it to hit. Um, so it's kind of cool to see. Um, but we'll definitely talk about more because there's a lot more to talking about when
Yeah,
it comes to.
here's what I think. I think that these three series that are making up this trilogy are all about grief. We have Wanda's grief over Vision in WandaVision. We have Agatha's grief over her son in Agatha All Along, and then I think Vision Quest is going to be Vision's grief over Wanda being dead, because I don't think we're getting Wanda back in the MCU before Vision Quest airs in October, because I don't think she's showing up in Spider-Man Brand New Day. So I'm real curious if somehow by the end of Vision Quest, Wanda's back. Or she shows up in Doomsday or Secret Wars. You know what I mean?
I would think Secret Wars would probably be most likely,
Yeah.
but you never know nowadays.
Yeah, you never know. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on our new night. Saturday nights is going to be the nights this goes out from now on. Shug, where can people find you?
People can find me here, post credits and the Rewatch Council, doing MCU stuff with you. Also trailer reactions. Also, any shows that I just had to pop on. And then you can find me over at Good Friends Better Rivals, doing Still Conspiracy with you. Uh, Unfortunately, that will be changing soon, but we will be doing we will still be doing Still Conspiracy. Doing a lot of stuff over there, different things. So come hang out with us, check us out. Really appreciate everybody, and find me on Twitter here, Sir9323.
Yeah. What Shug's referring to there, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving the channel or anything like that. I'm just gonna not be around the channel for a few months after I have spinal fusion surgery. So, we're gonna pre-record episodes though, so you'll still keep getting episodes of this and episodes of This Was a Schmodown with me and Josh. So that there's still some content, even though I'll be unable to make content for a while. But over on the sports channel, there will be some changes because I won't be around to do shows. So we, I think, are going to try to get Ferris to fill in for me on A Steel Conspiracy. So, anyways,
Okay.
thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.